as I continued, Glen Suitor had a very snappy cowboy hat on last night. Let's go to a picture of it if we can, because it was a hat that cost a few bucks. It was very stylish. Glen looked really good in the hat. When we see it, we'll let you know, Glen, because of course the people on radio won't see it. But if you're smart enough to be streaming, you will see Glen in his hat. And when we see it, we can also say that if you want to see something that's the exact opposite of what Glen looked like, and I mean the absolute opposite, I think Curtis is still going to try to effort a shot of it as we talk to Glen, will be his partner, Dustin Nielsen, in the booth. Glen had a stylish hat. We will see it in a few seconds. Dustin Nielsen had a plastic cowboy hat that he got at the dollar store, I think. Where did he get his hat, Glen?
That's a good question, Don. I don't know, but I know he was searching for the Woody lookalike from Toy Story. Oh. And because his kids love the Toy Story thing, and they're right at that age. Mm-hmm. And so he was looking for the Woody hat with the whistle and everything. And he came up with that one. In fact, it was funny because just before I left from Vancouver to get to Calgary, mm-hmm. he texted me and he said, "Hey, I'm going hat shopping. Do you want me to get you one? What size are you?" And when he had said to me, "I'm looking for a Woody-style hat," I thought, you know what? I'll bring my own. you go ahead and get yours, and we'll see how it all shakes down. But yeah, we were the outlaws up there. Well, at least I was, and so was Chantel down on the sideline wearing all black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that was a really good presentation that you guys had, and it was sort of cool to have this Stampede Bowl, and it's going to be a fun event, and hopefully they can sort of make the Stampede Bowl like the Banjo Bowl. The Banjo Bowl, oh, there it is. There it is. We've got it up. Thank you very much. I'll tell you, that was great work by Curtis, efforting that shot. There's the two of you. I don't know if you can see the stream or not there, Glen. We've got a shot of you and Dustin. You look so good, and he looks so bad. And his cowboy hat is shiny. Like it's off the TV lights.
Well, in fairness, Don, I had been to the Stampede a few times, yeah. And in fact, I've actually hosted a couple of things. So I wanted to, back years ago, get a really good hat for those reasons, and I just had it. In fact, I have an actual hat suitcase that you get that
really?
Guys that people that have cowboy hats, they know what I'm talking about. It's like a plastic thing, and it's got clips on the side, and it keeps your hat completely safe from any luggage crushing. So I was a little more prepared in that regard, I think, in fairness to my partner. But it was a great event and a good idea. And it's kind of like Amar Doman in Vancouver with his Game One mm-hmm. concert series, which he wants to continue. And now the Calgary Stampeders have a, random July game that becomes this sort of rivalry game. And I don't think it's been completely determined as to whether or not it will be Winnipeg every year.
Oh, okay.
I don't even think they've thought that far ahead, to be quite honest. They were looking at this as a one-off event and see what it looked like, and they loved it. The turnout was excellent. The buzz in the tailgate and all around the stadium was fantastic. So I think we'll see it again. I would lean. I think there's a thought that Edmonton might be a cool matchup, mm-hmm. but we have Labor Day for Edmonton and Calgary, and I don't know. I think it might be cool to be the visiting team going after the Stampede Bowl trophy. And it could be a different team every year almost, depending on the schedule.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. It was a very nice trophy. The Four Nations Cup was made by the same company as the trophy that they had for the Stampede Bowl, apparently. So, and the Banjo Bowl started so naturally, didn't it? And they're hosting the Stampede Bowl trophy there, as if you can see it. But the Banjo Bowl started in such a natural way. It just had to be successful when Troy Westwood called Rider fans, a bunch of inbreds and hillbillies. It was a natural beginning. It was a natural start. But why not just invent the Stampede Bowl and go with it and make some excitement out of it? Now, what I thought last night, Glenn, as you were calling the color last night, 37-16 for Calgary. I thought the score actually flattered the Blue Bombers. What I thought was interesting, all the different unique issues in the CFL seems to equal that you can rebuild a CFL team in one off season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a good point, and I think there's been people that have thought of that in sort of a negative way and thought, there's a lot of free agency, and that is a bit of an issue when you have 1-year contracts and you can't really build or market players in your community. I think we've discussed at length many times, the different ways that you could change that, but the upside is that you can rebuild quickly, that free agency will come. There's going to be a whole bunch of players, sometimes over 100 players that are available in free agency where you can really, rebuild your team. The other thing about our game that is unique, and I think it's that second chance league for a lot of really good athletes, good football players from the States that, are 28 years old, but are rookies in our league. And, a first-year guy that's 28 is so much more mature than a 23-year-old and has learned how to be a pro already through his journey. So there's that element as well.
Well, and that sort of ties into opening up the negotiation lists for all 9 CFL teams to the entire 45 players, and it'll change as the negotiation list changes. That's what the new commissioner has done just a few days ago. And that's so interesting for fans and such a refreshing move by the CFL, Glenn, because it gives you an idea how high of a caliber league this is, because you Google some of these players. Some of them we know who they are. I mean, we've heard of some of the players from their NFL or college careers at times, but the majority of them you don't really know. And you Google some of these guys and you realize, oh my goodness, I mean, it's just, there's Trey Lance, there's Claypool for the Rough Riders and whatnot, but there's a lot of outstanding athletes here that were good players in the NFL, or decent, and college stars. And anyway, I knew if you were the commissioner, you would have opened it up. And a great move of the CFL, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is another sort of subtle but important decision by the new commissioner, Stuart Johnston, and a guy who went in and probably had it from the media angle and saw the missed opportunity, and we have talked many times. I know Dave Naylor has been a big proponent of making the neg list public. And he's, I'm sure, talked to all the staff and Stuart Johnson at TSN when he was there. So, he comes in and automatically sees the benefit of it, as you just pointed out, and says, well, why are we being held back here by, I think the beginning of it, to go back in time to say why this happened, was because coaches and organizations would spend their own money from their teams to have a free agent camp in California. They would, in their mind, discover players that the rest of the league didn't know about. So they wanted to be able to, even if they couldn't sign them immediately, they wanted to be able to protect them because they had made the investment to go down and find them.
Right.
But with social media and with, all of the communication, different ways that we communicate between leagues and college football, and you can go and see any player, basically Google him now, and you see all of his highlights. The players now are building their own highlight packages. So
yeah, that's right.
You don't really need it anymore, Donnie. You just then you go to the missed opportunity, which we have argued for years and years. And that, I remember back in the CTV days when you and I were back doing the show, and who was hosting that show? It was
Dale Isaac.
Thank you. Dale Isaac was hosting the show.
You were a reporter.
Yes, and we were talking about making the negless public because there was some quarterback on that list at the time that was a big-name guy, and we thought, people would be interested in this stuff, and we want to make people interested in our league.
That's a good point. Now, of course, Stuart Johnson was a high-ranking executive with Bell Media. He used to be your boss, of course. With his media background and savvy and all that he knows about so many elements of sports broadcasting, how much do you think it's going to help him in his job as the CFL commissioner?
Oh, a ton. A ton. And I think the one that I always hammer home is the creation of the narrative that when well-meaning commissioners in the past, and when I say well-meaning, I'm sincerely mean they did a lot of good things, including Randy Ambrosie, like a lot of good things. And I know they were well-meaning to talk about rule changes and even some drastic fundamental changes to our game and making it more like the game down south. They had good intentions in mind, but what I don't think they understood was, and being in the media, you get this a lot, you can see it a lot clearer, is that when you continue to tell a fan that we need to fix the league because we're trying to fix the rules, because we need to fix the league to make it better and more exciting and blah, 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 what they're really saying is that the league is broken. They're not saying that out loud, but they're implying it because it needs all these drastic changes. And I always make the analogy that if I went into a restaurant and the waiter came out and he said, "Here, we have two dishes. One is a bit of an experiment. We're trying to fix it. It's not quite right. We're not sure if it's even clean." And then there's this other dish, number two, that is the best dish you will ever eat. Which one would you like? That's the messaging of two different things that as any sort of layman fan or layman cook, I would go, well, give me the one that I'll like forever. I mean, that's an easy choice. And I think that Stuart, to answer your question, will understand that what you say and how you say it from a league perspective matters. It matters in a big way. What is the message you're telling people? Because we don't have to fabricate it. You know that. This game is fantastic. It's fun. Are there bad games? Sure there are. Are there bad quarters and too many penalties sometimes? Absolutely. But that's the same in any league. Our league is fantastic. Now we just have to consistently message that,
right?
Create that narrative so that people don't say, well, I don't really want the one that is broken. Give me the one that is the best I'll ever eat.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Exactly. Don't disappoint. And that's what the new commissioner is going to work on. We've only got like 45 seconds left. I don't know where the time went, but if you can encapsulate this question. Last night I saw so much excitement in Calgary. I hadn't seen the fans like that in several years. They were ecstatic. They were loud. They were jumping up and down. It was so good to see. And the fact is, Winnipeg losing like that, they've won 5 Western Championships in a row. I thought it was actually good for the CFL, Glen. And no knock on Winnipeg.
Yeah.
No knock on Winnipeg at all. But it was good for the league.
Well, yeah, and sometimes we can build the sort of the New York Yankee model where there's one team that is just so dominant and they become the bad guy across the entire country, and who's going to knock off the big team and all that. And I think Winnipeg has sort of built that. But yeah, I always would lean in one or the other argument to parity. And if you go in and believe that your team has a chance to be a champion, you're going to be more interested and more engaged. So I really think to your point that was a game that showed that Calgary can compete. In fact, I did the Zooms with Ottawa and with Edmonton today, talking to coaches and a couple of players. And I asked them about that. I said, when you watch Winnipeg go down and be like the second best team in that game by a long shot last night, and Calgary doing it, what does that do to you guys and your confidence? And they were like, well, it's anybody's division. We're talking about teams that go, hey, they look like mere mortals. So any team can be beat on any given day.
Glenn, thanks a lot. Appreciate your insight. Have a good weekend.